Right.
Talk to me
Well,
about your beginnings.
yeah, I like to tell people that I'm kind of like a reluctant DJ, if you will. So the way that it all started off was I was a bedroom DJ strictly. So Whitney Young, I graduated from Whitney Young in the class of '88. They had what were called sock hops, which they let the high school DJs, DJ the sock hops. So occasionally I got on, but I was strictly just house music was such a big thing. We listened to a lot of hip hop, but everybody was
Right.
partying to house music back then. So there was a radio station called WHPK, which was the Hyde Park College, I mean, with the University of Chicago radio station back then. They had all of the raunchy rap, everything from Two Live Crew to Ice T, NWA. So we're singing all of this, in study hall. But when it came to the clubs, it was all about blending, mixing, house music experience. So fast forward, I graduate from Whitney Young, go to Florida A&M University, and about 3 weeks into being on campus, one of my buddies who graduated from Whitney Young the year before pledged, and that was the last year that you could pledge as a freshman, was '87. And so now he's a sophomore, and he's like, yo, my frat brothers are having a party. Why don't you come DJ? And this is Florida. I'm 1,000 miles away from home. And I was like, no.
Right.
He was like, what do you mean, no? I was like, no, dude. He was like, what, you DJ? I was like, no, man, that's a hobby. Like, I brought all of
Right.
that from Chicago just to do something in between class. He was like, we'll pay you $50. I was like, pick me up at 7.
Right.
$50 in '88 was like, 10 trips to KFC, 10 haircuts, 10 pizzas.
Right.
Like, I was like, I'm rich, $50. So after I did the party, a lot of the people were not from Chicago. Again, I'm in Florida, but they were like, man, this is good, because my interest in music, remember from WHPK, is I have these hip hop records. I've got some Florida records. I don't just have house music there.
Right.
So to fast forward that part of the story, people would come to my parties at FAMU because they were like, you don't just play one type of music, because the people from the north did not like the people from the music from the south. The people from the south did not like the music from the north. I liked it all. So the girls would say, well, we know if we come to your party, we're gonna hear some booty music, we're gonna hear some house, we're gonna hear some hip hop, some reggae, and that's kind of where my entire style came from. And then if people ever hear me on the mic, well, people in Florida could not DJ, but they used to transition the music just from talking. So I know y'all like this song right here, and then they would play the next song because they couldn't really have the technical skills. So I picked up the understanding of how to work the mic in between the songs, even though I wasn't doing that back then. My foundation of that was back at Florida A&M. Graduated from school after having DJ'd a lot of different events around Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, which is across the tracks from FAMU, DJing for them as well, the state of Florida. Did a lot of work. I threw away my turntable when I graduated, left my records at the frat house, and I was like, I'm going to do this corporate thing.
Uh-huh.
Teddy Gilmore starts ClubNet in 1996. And he's like, man, I want to bring you on as my vice president of music operations. I was like, I don't have to DJ, right? It's like the same thing all over again. Like, I don't have to DJ.
Right.
He's like, no, I want you to hire Steve Maestro and Ferris and the different guys, but you don't have to DJ. So he has an office on West Superior Street, close to downtown Chicago. And back then, there were no mixed CDs. There were a few mixed tapes, but he had a studio in there where we were doing different things for sound for a ClubNet, which was not a party company. It was actually a company that was like the Google of the phone. So you would call this number, and ClubNet was the, CLUBNET was the number, 312 ClubNet, and it would tell you about the different things happening around the city. So we got equipment to make the talk beds for people to be able to, press 1 for this, press 2 for that.
I remember those. Now that I remember.
And so here's the deal. I'm DJing in the office, and people are like, man, what tape is that? And they're like, man, the tape, that's Vince in there. Like, he DJs like that? They're like, yeah, he used to DJ all our parties back in college. They're like, wow. And so it just got to a point where after certain big parties, Ted said, you're up next. And I was like, what? He was like, you're up. I was like, the whole thing with Jeff in '88, 8 years later. Like, no, I'm not. And he was like, you're up. And it happened to be the Union Station party, which had 1,500 people. DJ'd it. I got the picture of me in the wet shirt and everything. People say, you sweating? I'm like, I'm working. but but the deal is that to carry it forward, I never was trying to get on. It was not like I was ever trying. It's just I had this skill set that people saw things in me and positioned me. And so to the Shark Bar one day, I'm DJing at the Shark Bar in like '99, and she was like, I didn't know you DJ like that. I was like, yeah, this is what I do. She was like, well, I'm doing BET now. How would you like to be on Planet Groove? So my network from high school and FAMU is what's made, like I've never really tried to do anything. So if you fast forward today, President Obama and the work that I've done with them, people saw things in me, and that's how so much I've never advertised, if you will, my services. I just have an incredible network, people that love me, take care of me, and it's all started in September of 1988, and it continues forward. So I've been blessed to DJ for presidents, president of NAACP, National Urban League, private birthday parties, NFL events, and NBA events, you name it. I've been able to kind of get on. And the last thing that I'll say about that, and this is one thing I've never shared really, is that when the club scene changed a lot in 2008, I said, I'm going to change how I market myself, because not many DJs have 2 degrees, pledged a Greek letter organization. I'm going to take all of these things that I've done at Essence Fest and these things around the country and position myself to be kind of like the premier alternative to the big name hip hop DJs like Biz Markie, Kid Capri, where if a fraternity, a sorority, or a professional organization wants a street feel to a party, a club feel to a party, but they want it done in a kind of polished way,
Corporate
that
way.
knows all right. And that's the curve the turn that I made in 2008, where I had kind of enough tenure in those places, First Friday, Sipping on Sunday, professional organizations, but I decided to make that my focus in 2008, and that's where we are today.
Particular, I noticed when the pandemic hit and clubs were closing and parties and travel and things like that you guys would normally do stopped. You were one of the ones that said, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to do these live shows, but I'm going to do it in a way that's different. And it really kind of took off. And even though you had an established brand, you've been able to, in the middle of all this work stoppage, expand your brand even more. What was your thought process? Did you have a moment when the pandemic hit and things got canceled where you kind of stopped and said, okay, what do I do now? Or did you know that you were immediately going to pivot into this kind of new virtual realm?
This is a great question because it's another example of history repeating itself. My mom calls me, so I do a big event in Mexico at the beginning of March, and come back, and literally as soon as I get back from Mexico, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
And my mom is like, you should do something on Facebook. You should there was no D Nice, and she didn't know it. She was like, you should do. I was like, I'm not doing that. So
Right.
it's like Ted in '96. It's like Jeff in '88. Mom in 2020 is like, you should do something virtual. And I was like, no, I'm not. That's not. I've never gone live. I've never,
Right.
it just was not on my radar. And then a buddy of mine, Andrell sends me a message, and she's like, you should do a live party, on virtual. And I was like, I'm not interested in doing that at all. And then a buddy of mine, Chris Stinson, sends me a message like, dude, look at D Nice on Instagram. I know D Nice, I've DJed with him before. And I see that it's like, 40,000, 60,000, 65,000, like it runs up to 100,000 people. And I'm like, man, this is an entire vibe. Like this is a moment right now, because the world was in turmoil and nobody knew what was coming next. It felt like, the day after tomorrow, kind of like a movie type thing.
Very much
but
so, yeah.
everybody was transfixed on D Nice. And I said, you know what? If you're in this party, if you're not Quincy Jones, Lenny Kravitz, Oprah, Michelle Obama, you're not getting a shout out.
Right.
That was my thought. That was literally my thought. Was like, he's got 100,000 people here, but he's like, oh, Naomi Campbell, what's up? He's not like, hey, Jeff Brown. No, it's like, oh,
Right.
Stephanie Mills. It's like. So, which is great. I mean, if you got that circle, I'm not saying that, but my thought afterwards was, what if you could do something like that where it actually was more interactive with the common person as opposed to, everybody had to be an A-list, B-list celebrity in order to get a shout
Right.
out. That was literally where it came from. So there was resistance on the front end, but I found what my own special angle within it could be, which is actually create more of an interactive as opposed to a fishbowl experience. Because if you were in that party, you might have sent them fire emojis, you might have done a lot of different things, but it was only going to be the shout outs to, the first degree of separation. I was like, well, my whole approach to parties is incorporating the birthdays and who went this and who did that,
Right.
and doing that. So that's really how it came about. It was not like, hey, I think it was very reluctant, but then when I saw an angle, because I was really excited about what I saw from him, I was like, this is a move. This is a whole vibe that he's done. But I can do this on a different level that becomes more interactive, and that's how it popped off.
Did you expect it to take off the way it did? Because those parties, it was almost like we would kind of joke online, like it's time to go to Vince's, to his online party. It became a thing where people were having watch parties and sending up cocktail emojis with their friends. It became very interactive.
Well, I'm a very transparent person. Two things. One, my mom is really into metrics, like how many people in it. I'm like, this is a moment. Like, I'm not expecting to keep these kind of numbers, or I'm not expecting but I do see a place that I can play in this, and then that becomes the gift and the curse. So the gift is the ability to interact with people. The curse is I'm in a room by myself. So there's two options that I have. Facebook is cutting off DJs if they hear the music. I could kind of turn my back to the crowd, or I could kind of shut down and just kind of do my DJ thing. But relative to what the energy needs to be for people to feel like this is their party, not they're watching me DJ, I've got to interact with the people, but I've got to interact with them to an extent that I get to stay up on Facebook longer. And people were like, well, how do you get to stay up on Facebook for 2 hours and 3 hours and these other DJs get cut? I was like, because I'm running my mouth the whole time trying to interrupt the algorithms that, make, Facebook cut people off when they hear the song.
And some people that will always say, well, why do DJs talk so much during their, some of their live shows? Well, there you go. Not everybody understands those algorithms.
It's two reasons. One is the algorithm, but two is the interaction. Do you just stop at one sorority, or do you just stop at 2 zip codes? Everybody wants to hear theirs.
You couldn't just do one sorority or fraternity. You could.
Right. So you didn't say Evanston. You didn't say Rockford. Right. You didn't say, so, it then becomes a certain level of appeasement for those people, because like I said, I don't want it to be the fishbowl where he don't speak to nobody that he don't know, and
Right.
so it just gets hard to please everybody. Love the ability to do it, but it has to be a certain level of understanding that you're really trying to appease a lot of people, and that does require what school did you go to, what neighborhood, what this, what that, and you can't ask that and then not talk to them after they after they respond to you.
And I think that is the best way to do it when you're at home and you don't have a crowd in front of you. You only are being able to see emojis or, certain things to know if they're feeling you. A lot of DJs said, I can't read a room the way I normally would. So I'm learning how to read my virtual audience differently. And that's one of the reasons, or one of the ways you do it. So.
And so that, led to my switch to Twitch, where I'm on Twitch now, which I'm still very interactive, but not to the extent that I was before. But that's why I call it the gift and the curse, because I never want to push people away. Like, can I just hear my song? Or can I, but if you're in a room by yourself, I'm in a room by myself, and you got your shout out, but there's 40 other people that's like, hey, I'm here too, and my sorority is here too, and so it does become one of those, you have to find a happy medium. So no, I did not expect for it to take off, but I do really appreciate that when people understand what a challenge it is to create that. You're in your kitchen, you're in your basement, you're in your bedroom, you're in your living room, having a interactive experience by yourself. So for me to throw that out, I feel like that's been a special gift during this, but I did not expect for it to become kind of like a buddy of mine, Tierney, said, you've created a cottage industry. Like you've kind of created your own little lane here of doing this in a different way than most people are doing it. And it's definitely been a whole new thing. As you said, my name is bigger today than it was.
The one thing that's been great about this is seeing creatives become even more creative in just how they market themselves, how they put themselves out there, how they keep their brands and things relevant. And one of the things, you took your live show and then evolved it even more, where you have, now a weekly show where it's more conversational and you're really getting in depth with some of your favorite artists or entertainers. I just think it's very cool. You get to see and learn about some of your favorite artists in a different way. Where did that concept come from?
Three things. I think that's a powerful question. The first thing is my fiance, Kalila. We're just like everybody else, like wedding some point. It was supposed to be 2020, but
right.
Everything is indefinite. So I feel like saying wife, because I mean, like, but fiance,
right.
Kalila, her new nickname is the EP, executive producer. Everything goes through her. Like she just has the feeling meter. Like she'll say, change that word to this, and I'm totally open. So what happened is, so that's the first thing. The EP, everything goes through Kalila. Second thing is, I had a conversation with Steve Hurley about 5 years ago when we were doing some things together. And I said, Steve, we need to go to lunch and just like talk about everything that happened back in the day. I just love to be a fan of, fly on the wall and just hear your thoughts about what happened back in the day. And then the third thing is that now that live happens, you've got a ton of DJs that are now going live. And so the value of my show or anybody else's show is like, I'll catch the next one, I'll do this. Because now everybody is live. So I'm like, I gotta find the off ramp. And when I say the off ramp, not to stop doing live, but to kind of differentiate myself. And my bio says I'm a businessman first. So I'm all about business. So why you play that? Because that's what the people want. Why you do this? Because that's what pays the bills. But why do you do that? Because that gets a comment check and that doesn't. I mean,
okay.
just to keep it playing.
That's real.
I'm a businessman first. So I said, well, the EP is here. Steve reached out to me. 3, there's an opportunity to differentiate myself. What if I had this conversation with Steve in front of people? People would watch that. Because we have a personal relationship, so they're kind of like watching a conversation. But
right.
we need to change the channel. Like everything is MTV, MTV2, MTV3, BET, VH1. Well, what about a talk show? What about something that is still entertainment in the music? And that's how it came to me. And so then I'm going around like conversations with people who are in house, and she's like, "That sucks." We'll conversate, and then and I'm going back and forth, and I'm like, voices of house music. Like these are the people that have a voice, but we know who they are, but we don't know their story. And she's like, voices of house music, that works. So it was those 3 things. It was 1, the EP being there. I had the idea on a Friday. The show aired on Wednesday.
Was it a nonstop process from the time you said this is the date I'm going to go live?
It's been a nonstop process since the day I said I was going to go live DJing. So even before the Voices of House Music, I've worked more. So it's like now I've got to come up with different, backgrounds for my shows. I've got to do so many different things. I'm a tech consultant if we're doing a private event. I'm the sound guy. I've learned so much about, technology and things. So I'm always now working, but I have to promote everything. Where before I was hired, I showed up with a backpack, I worked for 2 to 3 hours and I left and everybody else did the work. Here,
right.
I'm everything. So I've got all of these different titles. So to go back to your question, you said, has it been nonstop since the first Voices of House Music? Well, when you look at the fact that I started going live and that kind of took on its own thing, and then I kind of upped it with the graphics and the different things that are happening in the live. Then I started a talk show. Then I created a website
right.
called Online DJ Directory. So there's always something to do between all of these things, and I'm blessed to have a great support system. And I sit and play Jim Rummy with the misses and do different things because you do have to balance out and have family time. But at the same time, it's just been nonstop since the end of March.
So when obviously Chicago is a hotbed of talent and history, especially in music, particularly house music. How have you been able to pick and choose the people that you want to speak to? Because so far it's been A1. Every guest has brought something incredibly different to the table that I've enjoyed. But what's the process of selecting your guests and being able to not just select people that you want to talk to, that you know other people want to hear from?
Let me start here. And please don't inbox me, people. Let me stop here. I don't ask for favors. I've got an incredible Rolodex,
Hmm.
but I've never asked really anybody for favors. So the beauty behind the Voices of House Music was when I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Dion Cole, hey, Terry Hunter, hey, Steve Early, hey, Farley," they were like, "I'm there," because I don't really ask for
Right.
anything, and their contribution to the culture being documented as well was exciting for them, and they knew that I would do it in a respectful way. So that's really, what the picking of the guests has come down to, is having an incredible Rolodex, but at the same time using my great one degree of separation, like I've got immediate access to you, and then
Hmm.
that builds I guess you could say, integrity, reputation for the show, for me to say, "Hey, Terry, I know Ron Trent, but I don't have access to him. Hey, Alan, can we get Louis Vega eventually down the line to be able to then go to the, second degree of, so that my goal is not to keep this a Chicago thing. I think that at this point, it's great to have a powerful 1%, 1 degree of separation, but that's where it started, is like, what can really create a pop in 3-4 months that other people like, Black Coffee or Charisma or Spin or,
Right.
Bruce Rare is like, yeah, I've heard of that show. I want to do that, and it's then spreading out to more people than just Chicago. But that's the thought process behind it.
Now let's talk about your DJ directory and this online platform that you've created where people like me can go and find some of their favorite artists. Can you talk to me about what made you decide to do that as well?
Yes, it's a great question, Danny. I said, you know, Facebook sucks for DJs. Instagram sucks for, like, Instagram sucks. Period. For like the sound, everything. Just watching this narrow, like, I'm like, I don't like anything about Instagram. I was like, Twitch is hot. However, if I said, hey, I'm going to Twitch, would, 4 figures of people come in the time that they come? Yes. But what if I said, hey, all, we should go to Twitch?
Right.
And if you develop a certain level of appeal for your show, create value, not just like pop up and say nobody's here. You got to create value. But
Hmm.
what if DJs could solve a problem? So Danny, don't you hate it when your favorite Facebook, party is being interrupted? Wouldn't you like to have an uninterrupted party experience? How about a nonstop party on Twitch? We're all
Yep.
going over there. Well, so far we all is me, Alan King, Terry, and just a couple other people. Where a lot of guys are saying, "Well, I don't have a following there." Well, you got to build it. If you build it, they will
Right.
come. If you
Yes.
provide value, so it's all about providing value. And I wanted to give DJs a tool. So my own money, my own thought, my own resources, my own web designer. Here's a resource, www.onlinedjdirectory.com, where if you're DJ Ski Money and you say, hey, you can find me in the directory, people are like, oh wow, DJ Ski Money, but then there's DJ J Boogie, and then there's DJ C, Wannabe or whatever. It's like, it's not just creating a following for that guy, it's creating a following for everybody. So then if people come and look for Vince Adams, they're like, oh, I didn't know that Alan King was here. I didn't know that this person was here. And so you don't get that experience just following one person over to Twitch, but you do get that experience from a very simple website that allows you to sort Chicago and see all the Chicago DJs that are in New York. So the directory is over 200 now, and I'm expanding it to include Facebook and Instagram, because if you can't beat them, join them. So for the
Yeah.
guys that want to be, listed, with Facebook and Instagram, but also Mixcloud, and also there. So I'm expanding a lot, and I don't mind breaking news. I'm converting it into an app as well, so it'll be ready at the end of this month to be an app full service DJ directory to help DJs be found easier in the virtual world. Why is that? Virtual's not going anywhere ever.
That's right. That's right.
Everything is
It's the new
virtual,
way.
and if you're waiting for things to open back up, keep waiting. I'm like, so you're either going to find a way to win and eat with this, because unless your normal party was 50 people,
Right.
we're not going to get to places legally being able to put 50 people in the same room for a dance party, maybe for a wedding, or, maybe that sort of thing. But for a weekly, that's not coming. So what is it that you can do? Well, because people do like their favorite DJs, and they come in. If you provide value, if you can get 50 people on Instagram, you can get 50 people somewhere if you provide value for them to come and experience you uninterrupted. So, that's where the whole thing came from, is I want to provide a new tool for DJs to be able to service people for an uninterrupted period of time, but you have to be found in order to build an audience. That's where online DJ Director comes in.
Speaking of the Voices of the House, one of the things that I personally felt, one of the reasons I started my personal website was because I had heard all of these stories and saw documentaries covering house history and house music, but it was always 80s, early 90s. But there wasn't anything talking about now. The fact that this culture, this music, the art form, the DJs, the things that are still happening, the music that's actually being made is still happening now. And I wanted to talk about those. I wanted to capture those stories. And one of the things I think that this entire pandemic and other things have taught me is the importance of telling our stories by us. So we're able to keep the authenticity of these stories and not have them altered as sometimes they are. And this particular show that you're doing is one of those avenues of keeping our culture preserved. It's an entertaining show that we can watch every week, but it is also a time capsule of information for future generations. So I think what you're doing, what so many other artists are doing right now, is in their own particular way, preserving, maintaining the culture. So as we move into kind of this new virtual world, do I believe we'll be able to go outside one day? Sure, one day. But in the meantime, what artists, what you're able to do, and giving people a platform to actually tell the stories behind the music, if that makes sense, and behind kind of the thought process. Those are the things that I think, as we look back at this moment, it'll be these kind of shows and certain articles and things like that. That's the nugget that we get to keep. You may not be able to pull up a live show or a live DJ set, but you will always have an interview with some of these artists that you've been able to reach. Do you have a wish list of people that you'd like to have on the show right now?
I really can't say that I do. And just to pick up on that, I mean, everything you said was exactly the impetus for creating the show. One was a time capsule. I was like, I've seen a lot of documentaries, but I haven't seen the long form version of these 17 people that were interviewed for one 50-minute show.
Right.
So you've got probably like 3 hours of interviews with 4 minutes of content from each one of those people. You don't really get, in a bunch of B-roll. So you don't really get the raw, candid, unfiltered conversation. That was the first thing that I wanted to do, was provide that all in one place. But the second thing was to show the progression of the industry or the culture, where it hasn't just stopped with Percolator 95.
Right.
Like there's so much more that's being created, so much more. A lot of music I like better than what it is I grew up with. I'm like, this is hot, Like, I like this song better. Not that this era, you got to be technical, and not to say this era is better, but song per song, there are some songs that I enjoy more today than the songs that I grew up with. But a lot of people don't know these songs exist because it got caught in the 79 and 95 bubble. So I wanted the show to not only document the history, but also show the progression of the fact that the culture is still alive and thriving today. So, definitely that's why I did it. And so I don't really have a wish list of guests, because I just feel like it's organically growing to be its own, like, like I had, if you would have asked me, what would you be doing in virtual in like the third week of me doing this, it wouldn't be what I'm doing today. I just kind of like hit the openings when they appear. So I don't really have like, yeah, well, I see this being a Netflix series when this is like, I don't know. I'm just kind of here making it happen like
Yeah.
literally one day at a time. So
I think you've set somewhat of a standard for some people who may be trying to figure out, what do I do in this new era. I think you've been a great example of how to take lemons and turn it into lemonade, for lack of a better word, and make it work for you.
I consider myself to be a student of the law of attraction, and not from the generic sense of it, but really like perspective is everything. I mean, that's what the law of attraction. If you could come up with the simplest definition of the law of attraction, like, you can see something and feel one way about it, or you can feel another way. And it's really a perspective thing. And the more you gain a perspective that benefits you as opposed to one that disables you, the more things move faster in that direction. If you pick the disabling perspective, the more things that seem to pop up that, create a disabled position. So I just try to make everything progressive, proactive. And so I've been action oriented. Like, I really haven't planned too much. And I mean, my background corporately was a project manager. So
Okay.
I always have, a path to what I want to do. But I'm not sitting around with a flow chart for like 5 weeks before it happens. It's like, here's the next thing I can do and I'll figure the rest out. Here's the next thing I can do and I'll figure the rest out.
Well, for those that don't know, can you please tell everyone where they can find you and your shows that are airing every week?
So much still happens on Facebook.com/DJ Vince Adams. So everything I do is /DJ Vince Adams. So whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it. But Twitch.tv/DJ Vince Adams is where my live shows normally are, unless I'm being, now I'm doing virtual events for other people as well that are still open to the public, but we're putting them on different platforms. But the easiest thing to do is, anybody, I respond to all my personal messages. So I do have a public page, which is Facebook.com/DJ Vince Adams World. My personal page is Facebook.com/DJ Vince Adams. And everything else, Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter, are all DJ Vince Adams.
And Voices of House airs.
Voices of House music, the exciting thing to me is, even if you miss the actual airing, which they go live at 7 p.m. Central on Wednesdays on Facebook Live at DJ Vince Adams, or Facebook.com/DJ Vince Adams. Even if you miss it, if you just do a simple search on Spotify or a simple search on Apple Podcasts for Voices of House music, the replays, the audio replays, are available within 24 hours after the show. So anybody who misses the actual airing can get the audio replay within 24 hours.
Oh, great. Like I said, I think everybody's just figuring it out. But I really
Absolutely.
think, and as I've told friends who are DJs as well, I really think the ones you see come out of this better, stronger, more visible, are going to be the ones like you who have sat down and really thought certain things through about, how do I take this and elevate it and still maintain, my integrity and be true to who I am. And those are the ones that you're going to see come out of this better.
No, I'm glad you see it like that. For sure. No, thank you so much,
Thank
Dan.
you.
I had a great time.
I did too. Thank you so much. But it was great talking to you.
Same here. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.